Welcome to Around Town. Good afternoon. I'm your host, Dick Patten, as we're getting ready for the festive Easter Bunny to arrive. And, of course, after that, baseball is on the horizon, opening up at Fenway Park. And April will be on us. And whatever else goes on. Let's see. Will they be celebrating in Ann Arbor? I don't know. Michigan's in the final four, and they are in the National Hockey Championship against Notre Dame. So, anyway, I am pleased to welcome here today Ross Cunningham, a good friend of ours, and who is the superintendent or the director of the Merrimack County House of Corrections in Boscawen. I used to laugh because I hear Boscawen is how I pronounced it, or Boscawen, or Bosquine.
Yeah.
The old timers always said Bosquine. Yeah. How they got the Quine out of it, I'll never know. But anyway. Well, you are pretty lucky. You are now the homeowner, I should say, of some new duds up there at the county jail. The county jail there for the ladies, or is it for our men too? Or no?
Yeah, it's for both men and women.
Yeah.
Yep.
Boy, I haven't been up to see it yet. I got to get up there, but from what I saw on TV, it looks pretty nice. That's the old Edna McKenna.
Yep.
Jail house there at one time for the men, but it's been in mothballs there for a while.
Yeah, it was 2005 or so they left and moved into the old facility, and then it sat for about 11 to 12 years. There was some studies done on it. They put a new roof on it, and then when I transitioned to superintendent, there was already some conversations about what to do with the building. And thanks to the Board of Commissioners' support and the delegation's support, we moved forward to make it into a community corrections center. So we opened in February, and we presently have roughly 25 to 30 offenders in the building, both men and women. The community corrections center serves only as a reentry center for drug and alcohol programming, but also for treatment programming and options that will support them to re-enter back in society. So we've started that model. We've been doing the model for about a year now, and we're showing some success there. And we need a good 2-3 years under our belt to show true success. A lot of similarities to what other counties are doing. Sullivan County, Belknap County, a lot have entered into the world of re-entry, and the fact that 80-85% of our population in jails end up back in our communities. So we should support as best we can and stand them up and work towards a healthier reentry rather than just their last day of their sentence, moving them out the door with no supports, which is not the most healthiest way to transition back into the community.
Okay, so in other words, the old Edna McKenna facility is not. You're not housing any inmates in there, right?
Yes, we are.
You are.
Yes.
Got them in there.
Yep.
Men, women, or both?
Yep, men and women, both.
But there's no interaction there, though?
No.
Okay.
No, basically it's separated by floors. Downstairs is for the women, upstairs is for the men. There's 35 beds for the men and 35 beds for the women. They both have the same access to programs. They're gender specific, so they program completely separated. And then they have the same model of reentry that everyone else does. Their group work is done separately. Their reentry work is done separately and individually. So we do a lot of individual supports too once they're re-entering back into society. We have group work and individual work done weekly. We have a strong partnership with Riverbend, and with that partnership we've put our resources in the community also so that they can be out in the community and meet in the community and support them in the community. Our re-entry model has a year of aftercare, so we supervise the offender all the way through for roughly a year.
So then the other one, the current one that you're using, now are you at capacity with that one?
No. The idea behind this is being corrections smart. So managing our population, right now between the two buildings is 305 beds. If this is run properly, Merrimack County should never have to build a jail bed again. Because the idea is you look at it as you fill the top of the bucket and you release out so much out of the bottom of the bucket, so to speak. Best way to explain it. And the reality is it's a supervised release. So the idea, if you're successful in maintaining them in the community, there's no need to continue to build a capacity. Because the idea in this country of building our way out of this problem has not been successful. I'm not here to tell you there aren't going to be jails and prisons, because there are. What I am saying is that you need to manage the population much differently than we have in the past. So that is the goal behind it.
Now, the other building that's empty there still, which to me, I thought was a chapel or something, because it has the looks of a church or a chapel. But I was told that was the old jail, or house of correction. But it's too small.
I think you might be referring to the MSU building that's like closest to the road.
Well, I guess it's down there before that set of barns on the right side.
Yes, that's they called it MSU. I don't know what the complete history behind that building is. I've known they've done some renovations in the building, and now the maintenance department uses this as their quasi head area where they put all their tools and equipment to do work out of. But that building has been refurbished to a point, so that maintenance is used to support it. Where before that was also somewhat empty, from what I understand. Now they're utilizing it.
Because I'm trying to think back when I dispatched there in '74 up through there. We used to check them after 11 o'clock at night to 5:30 in the morning, and we used to call it Station A.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the old Station A, or what was?
Yeah, it probably was. Yeah.
But that didn't have many inmates in there.
No.
Couldn't have been.
No, because they built the Edna McKenna facility in '82, '83.
Yeah.
So I would assume during that time frame, that's the building you're talking about.
My God, how the heck they couldn't have had many people there? But
no.
But they've been at capacity for so long at times.
Right. Yep.
And there's still I still get after them. I still say, what is the matter? Why don't you bring back the farm?
Right.
You know, the cows and stuff like they used to have there and make some money on them. But nope, they have no plans to do that.
Right. Well, it's a costly venture to engage in, and then a costly venture to maintain, from what I understand. And that's perhaps why there's maybe some reluctance to do it. I don't know all the ins and outs.
Grafton County still does it. They make
in some ways, in shapes or forms, they do, but not at all. Not as they purely have ran a county farm in the past.
No, but they still got the cows up there.
Yeah, they still have the cows, and they do
gardening up there.
They do some gardening, so there are some supports there. I think long term could be looked at. Sure.
You know, it's just I don't get it because they all seem to close at once, but.
Right.
But you know, you've got both. It's quite a job, though. You've got both facilities now to oversee, and it's like, man.
Yeah, well, they're also attached. So between the two buildings, they're attached, and we have a biomass facility. So we created a above ground tunnel between the two buildings, so you can walk between the two.
Oh.
It's about a 1/4 mile stretch, but it's quite a walk. But it's good for everybody to take a walk once in a while. And so that biomass facility serves as heat and hot water for both buildings. So it goes both ways. And we actually saved a lot of financial side of it. We actually saved a lot of money by putting all the servicing above ground. So if there's a leak or an issue, you're not digging up the ground to look into it. You actually have to just pop a ceiling tile and do the work you need to do. So in actuality, not only do we get efficiencies in using the project that for the county, the county engaged in a whole project for JCI, the energy improvements, and one of those was looking at getting away from number two heating oil in the jail. So this biomass facility burns a dried chip, and that chip provides enough energy to heat both buildings. It's quite an amazing machine.
I guess so.
Yes.
I don't know, Ross. I don't envy you, but are you at full staff as far as your guards go and all that?
Well, correctional officers wise, we have about 9 vacancies at the moment. I think everybody is having a struggle today. I think in law enforcement, in the medical field, the clinical field, or everyone has been having a significant struggle with recruiting personnel at this point. I mean, unemployment is what it is at this point, and it's pretty tough to recruit right now, and also to find good quality applicants is a struggle at times. And so we've managed our way through it. We're very successful to date. Would I like to see those numbers lower from 9 to maybe 4 or 5? Sure. It's the ebb and flows of the environment, though. I don't think in 29 years I've been doing this work I've ever been at 100%. If I was at 100%, it was for like one day, meaning all the positions filled. So it's always the ebb and flow of the field.
Mm. And that's because the economy is so good now, right?
Right. And unemployment's under 2%.
Yeah,
so
everybody's looking for, they're all looking for work, jobs are.
Yep.
But yet what gets me is you still see these panhandlers out there with their big signs, need money for whatever, for food or for what, it's like, here's some applications, go fill them out and go to work. No, don't want that.
Well, there are challenges, right?
Yeah. That's what gets me though, is that they're out there looking for panhandling, but yet you give them a few job applications, no, they don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
That's too easy.
Right.
Well, it's good in a way to know that the unemployment's down, but boy, are you having to have people stay over for shifts for overtime and stuff?
We've done pretty well. There's been some staffing adjustments that had to be made over time, and the staff have adjusted well. I think the success of the model is built off your staff. I think you have to have a great group of people that are team members that are willing to go the extra mile for each other, and we are definitely moving in that direction. I don't think you have success in any organization without great staff, and I think we've grown to have a great group of people. They look out for each other. They're moving in a healthier direction, and I couldn't be more happy or proud of them. So creating that culture has been difficult. It takes time. It's a 5 to 7 year workup. And so we're about, I've been 3.5 years in, so it's going to take some time. But I think to answer your question, we've had some times where people had to be mandated, but not as frequent as it was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
That's how long you've been in, just that long?
Yep.
I thought it was longer than that.
Right.
Huh. Well, a lot of it speaks to you, your leadership, obviously.
I appreciate that.
If you weren't a good leader, they wouldn't probably stay 2 seconds. But obviously you're a good leader, and that's a big thing in itself also.
Yeah, I think the big exercise too is promoting good people, hiring good people. I make a huge effort to make sure I meet with every new hire. I take a time to make sure that the promotions are reviewed and we have a good conversation about whoever's getting promoted. So I think all of those things come to where we are today, and I think we're a hell of a lot healthier than we were yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I've known Kara ever since she was this high, I guess.
Right.
Because her mother, of course, was was in the clerk's office, Superior Court, for years when I worked there.
Right.
And of course, her brother Craig was the one I hired as a dispatcher when I was there.
Right.
Then he went on to become chief, and so I mean, she comes from a good background.
Yep.
And I don't know the other ones you've got, but now you were talking to me a year ago about a Christmas program. Did you maintain that this year? 'Cause I didn't hear a word from you on that.
Yes, we did. We did provide basically we have a Christmas exchange where the offenders are able to exchange a gift with their significant other or children that are parents are incarcerated at the facility. We basically we work through that all, find out their ages and gender, and then we purchase through donations gifts for them and have an exchange at Christmas time.
Did you do all right? Because I didn't hear a word. I told you we'd be more than willing to help out. The Grange would be.
Yeah, I think the big thing we just did it, and then we actually had enough money to cover it. So I'm a person that says if you got enough to handle things, then don't ask for more.
Well,
and so I mean, we definitely think about it this year. We'll definitely engage because each time you want to make it a little more. So we've kind of edged into this. This is probably our 3rd year of doing it. So each year you make it just a little bit better.
You don't get into Easter then, I take it.
No. Really, the only event that we end up supporting is generally Christmas. So.
Yeah, I know Easter's gotten to be like a second Christmas because I mean they've made the Easter Bunny almost it's become so commercial now. It's not funny.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, most of the holidays have been on special days. I mean, it's pretty sad when you see Valentine's with all the stuff they've got now for that. It used to be just a box of candy. Now they've got everything you'd think of just fill a box for a kid or whatever.
Mhm.
You know, it's just sad. But the I know as a trustee, I get a lot. I get a lot of things to look over and to approve of or disapprove. But it seems that what you're providing for them, I mean, they can't. I can't see how they could complain because boy, they're getting the stuff to do what they need.
Right. The whole goal behind that is to be supportive of what they need to provide basic baseline services while they're there and while they're there to serve their time. And the reality is to provide the basics and perhaps a step more or two depending on what their needs are. But it's always been my goal to keep that in mind and keep the balance there, because the reality is they are there for a reason, and we're there to serve what we could and support them to be successful when they go back out in the community. Like I said earlier, 80-85% of the population end up back in the community. So the balance has to be there.
Now, do you help them get jobs when they go back, or do they still have a job when they go back? Oh, the employees, nope, you're fine. You know.
No, I would say there's a percentage of them if they have a job. I always call it the three-legged stool. So if they have a job, a place to live, and transportation, then the problem of reentry is somewhat eased into the reentry piece. It's a stable situation.
Yeah.
If they don't have a job or a place to live, we have a work release unit, which they pay 1/3 of their salary while they're living at the facility. If they have a place to live but no job, we have case managers that will work with them to work on resume writing and engage in employment and getting a job. So we have all those tools on our belt, so to speak, to support them in those types of situations. I think in any reentry model, the struggle is always employment and housing, or housing employment, depending on where you are in the country. So I think those are always things that we'll end up having to manage and to tackle or deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Do you have any concerns, or has it been brought to your attention about, I mean, let's face it, there's so much junk going on today, either with the drugs coming in or the weapons being snuggled in or something. I was reading somewhere on the paper or something about these drones that they have drugs on them or something. They can drop in or something. Have you heard of that?
Well, I've heard about it, and I've read articles and instances that have happened throughout the country with them. And I'm sure there are instances within the state where that's happened. For us, we added a canine to our facility.
Really?
He actually lives at the facility. His name is Mac. We have several handlers, so he's a dog that's managed by multiple handlers. So as far as drug interdiction, we're using him. We basically look at 4 levels. We look at detection, enforcement, treatment, and review. So we're constantly in those 4 cycles of looking how we operate and how we do business. Not to say that some stuff may or may not get in, but the reality is we're constantly looking at those things and evaluating where we are. Where there's a will, there's a way, and the fact of the matter is we just have to find out where that way is at times. And sometimes it's challenging, and at other times it presents itself in a very odd way, and we can respond to it in a very timely fashion.
I mean, I suppose maybe it's not as prevalent with you as it is with the prison, but still, the possibility is there, and you've got to be on the watch for it.
Yes, we do, and that's the key to having great staff. As I said earlier, I mean, the idea is having a great group of people working there and people that are on their toes and listening and watching and seeing what's going on and being responsive to it is also key to being successful in that.
Yeah. Huh. And the dog you have, is it a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd or a Doberman, or what is it?
It's a Belgian Malinois. So
A what?
Malinois. It's a Belgian.
Excuse me, what's that?
It's more law enforcement have gone to the Malinois breed.
Malinois.
Malinois. Yeah. Basically it has a shape and a look of a shepherd, but they've just been more introduced into law enforcement and the military over the last several years.
I've never seen them. I've never seen one.
Yeah.
For goodness sake. And they really, they can sniff them out.
Oh yes, Mac has done very well, and the staff have done very well. It's been a very good partnership, and quite frankly, we're probably one of the only facilities in New England that has a dog living on site.
Wow.
Most canines are taken off site and home.
Yeah, yeah.
His home is actually the jail, and the handlers handle him, and he's done great work, and we appreciate having him on board, and he's a good member of the team.
Well, that's a good idea. Good thing. I mean, that's a real. Whose idea was it to get him?
Basically, it was born off a conversation between myself and Captain Joe Costanzo. We had a conversation, and I challenged him to research and look into it, and he met the challenge, and here we are.
And you got the funds okay to
We actually got most of the funds through grants.
Wow.
Yeah. The only thing moving forward would perhaps be the taxpayer's responsibility will long term be some of his veterinarian visits and some of his supports of food and things like that. Other than that, we just got a vest for him through a grant. So those things are all been managed. He's done great work with that, along with all the handlers.
Boy, I'll tell you, it's amazing how far this has come since '74 when I started up with the dispatch. Yeah. Goodness gracious. And to be sentenced to the House of Correction, that's what? 1 year, 2 years, or is it the
1
jail?
year. So pre-trial, all jails in New Hampshire are pre-trial detention facilities, and people up to a year sentence. Anybody sentenced to a year or more goes to the prison system.
So what's the definition between the House of Correction and the jail?
The House of Correction is a term they used to call the facilities back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Today I would call them correctional facilities, or some still call them jails. For us, we call it the Department of Corrections, Merrimack County Department of Corrections. So they're all terms.
Yeah.
It just each chunk is probably every 10 years it's changed in philosophy. Some of the documentation still has House of Correction on there. Some of the documentation has jail on there. I think by and large, most of our facilities in the world of corrections today would be best phrased as correctional facilities versus jail versus House of Correction.
So, if a group is, again, we're going to go right back to what I said about Christmas, but other than Christmas, is there things throughout the year that you feel that inmates can use or would like to see, or clubs reach out? What could they donate?
Well, a lot of things that could be donated is supplies such as in books. We just revamped the library, educational support such as paper, pens, pencils, things like that. Father's Day, Mother's Day, a card drive sometimes is supported, and actually pretty healthy for them to do that.
Now, when you say that, what are you talking about? For them to send out?
Yeah, send out.
So you can still send cards to your inmates then? Where the prison, I thought, stopped it.
I'm not quite sure what the prison has done.
But it's pretty sad because sometimes, up there, they don't get no cards. They can send them out, I guess, but...
Well, there is a whole issue surrounding correctional processes in regards to mail and how it's brought into the facility process and how it's given out. There's been time and time again where there's been times where Suboxone, which is one of the drugs of choice, has either been put in the mail under a stamp, soaked in letters, and people have used it and brought in contraband and used it inappropriately in correctional facilities. So I'm not going to sit here today and tell you that dealing with mail is a challenge. It's a huge challenge.
Well, I bet.
How you manage it, how you support it, and the balance to it is difficult.
So right now, if someone wanted to get some Father's Day cards or Mother's Day cards for you, for the inmates to mail out, you would like some of those if you could.
Yeah, we could definitely receive a donation like that, and basically we'd have some of the program staff let the offenders pick a card and have them mail it out at their expense.
Okay.
That's a reasonable thing to do. But those are the types of things that we could use for supports and on a day-to-day basis.
What's on your big wish list?
As far as what?
Well, your budget has been approved for this year. So what's on your wish list that you would like to have had but couldn't get?
I don't know if I have any. I think in the next year we need to do some reviewing in regards to whether we're going to introduce body scanners into the department. I had asked the Board of Commissioners to give us a period of time using the K9 before we evaluated the scanner. I think we're in a good place where we could have that conversation coming up in the next budget cycle. As far as wish lists, to date, I mean, we need to work towards getting to a place where we're constantly looking at the business side of what we do in corrections and make it more efficient or effective. I think we've done really well the last 3 years in our budget, and I think we constantly do analysis to see what's effective and efficient in the operation. So one of the things we're going to do this summer is just a strategic planning exercise for the department, and I think once we're done with that, I could probably better answer those things. I mean, for right now, I think the department is well supported. There's some funding pieces that need to be resolved. We have a contractual issue we need to resolve. So once those things are kind of squared away, we'd probably have a better answer probably in the fall.
How about board games, puzzles, and all that stuff? Do you have a need for those?
We always have the ability to donate those things. Again, those are things that we would be willing to search and take in for a donation. Again, just contact the facility and let us know what that would be, and then we'll take an opportunity to decide whether we're going to take it in or not. Yeah. But generally speaking, those are things we're open to.
Good. Well, Ross, we're coming to our close of Around Town. It's a pleasure having you here, and again, my hat's off to you for doing the job you're doing, you and your staff up there, because I hear nothing but good stuff, so it's good.
I appreciate that. They're a great group of people.
I can't wait to come up and take a tour, so.
Anytime.
Well, good.
I appreciate it.
We've been visiting with Ross Cunningham, the superintendent for the Merrimack County House of Corrections, or jail up there, and in Bosquen. So if you ever decide, take a ride up Route 3 going towards Franklin. You've got the nursing home on one side and his facility on the other side. So give him a call, and what is it, 796?
3601.
That's right, 3601. I kept crossing across the road there. Very good. So have a great day, and we'll look forward to seeing you all soon on Around Town. Thanks to Ian Marx, my director. I'm Dick Patten, your host.